All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to our 2023-25 Reengagement Opportunity Grants reporting and data presentation. We are thrilled to have you here with us today. Again, some housekeeping information. Please mute your audio during this presentation. This presentation will be recorded and will be posted online. If you'd like to turn your cameras off or leave them on, it's up to you. And we will be starting in a moment. All right. Oops, go back. Great. Just a brief overview of what we'll be covering today. We'll be doing an overview of what really your reporting will look like for the next 2 years. So first, we'll be talking about the portal through which you will report. We'll be showing you our technical assistance webpage. We'll be talking about the reporting schedule, and then narrative reports, expenditure reports, and then a bit of a deeper dive into these, into the data report. And then there will be a question and answer session at the end. So if you have questions, please hold them for the end, or you can type them in the chat. We will be monitoring those questions as we go through. We just ask that during the presentation you remain muted, and then we'll dive into that question and answer session at the end. Again, please remain muted. The presentation will be recorded, and just put those questions in the chat as we go along. All right, we're going to do some welcomes. We'll just introduce our YDO staff, and I will turn it over to Paul.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jared. My name is Paul Saw. I'm the associate director here, one of the associate directors here at YDO. Appreciate everybody joining today. And I'll be behind the scenes pulling the chat into the Q&A session. So like Jared said, please put those questions in there and then we'll address them at the end. I'll turn it over to Molly.
Good morning, everyone. Molly Burns, Grant Manager and Re-engagement Analyst. I'll come in on the second half of the presentation to talk a little bit about the data reporting and data report. Jared?
Morning, everyone. My name is Jared Shaw. I'm a Grant Manager and Workforce Analyst. And I'll pass it to Taneja or any other members of YDO staff who are here.
Good morning. My name is Taneja Bishop. I'm the Youth Grants Administrative Specialist. And I'll turn it over to whoever else would like to introduce themselves.
My name is Bill Hansel. I'm Grant Manager and Data Lead, and I too will go off camera after this and just kind of be in the background.
And I'm Sally Deck. I am a Grant Manager and the Future Ready Analyst. And like Bill, I will just be behind the scenes.
Great. Thank you all. Do we have any other YDO members here? No, don't think so. All right. The names you see on your screen collectively make up the re-engagement team. So that's why we have those names there. All right. So we're going to dive into our overview of re-engagement reporting. So first really is how you will report, and that is going to be through the SurveyMonkey Apply portal. Now, if you recall, when you applied for this grant, you applied through SurveyMonkey Apply. That is going to be the same website through which you submit your quarterly reports. We will get you set up in that website. Don't worry about doing anything yet. That all requires the grant agreements to be executed and that project plan process to happen. Grant agreements are a bit delayed, so we will keep you updated on that. Hopefully those start going out shortly, but until those grant agreements go out, you don't have to worry about anything yet. So we will work with you when that happens. When that happens, we will designate somebody from your team as the owner in SurveyMonkey Apply and anyone that you would like as collaborators. So if you recall, the owner, I believe, was the person who submitted the application. So when we have our introductory meetings with you, we will be asking who you would like to be the owner in SurveyMonkey Apply. That's going to be the person who submits those quarterly reports every quarter. Collaborators will be able to add information in SurveyMonkey Apply, but that owner is going to be the person who sees that submit button and submits. So in the introductory meetings that you have with your grant manager, we'll be getting that information from you on who you would like in there. We request that you keep it to about 3 people. The more people we have in there, the more complex it can be. So just if we can keep it to one main contact who will be the person who submits the reports, and then maybe a couple other people who can add information. SurveyMonkey Apply will be where you submit the narrative report. It will also be where you submit a budget narrative. And then it will have links to external documents, which include the expenditure report and the Smartsheet.gov data report, where you'll be submitting those reports. SurveyMonkey Apply will also be where you acknowledge that all reports and EGMS claims have been completed before you submit your quarterly reports. We're not going to dive into what SurveyMonkey Apply looks like at this point. We will get you all set up in that system when those grant agreements have been executed, but just to be aware, that is the portal through which you'll be submitting all of those reports. We also wanted to draw your attention to the technical assistance webpage, which is linked here in this presentation, but that is on our website. And just to make sure, someone from YDO, can you make sure that you can see the website here?
Yes, we can.
Great. So if you go to our website, we've now split up our grants at the top on this bar here. You'll see right here, Youth Re-Engagement Opportunity Grant. And if you go to 2325 ROG Technical Assistance, that's going to take you to this page. We will be updating this page periodically throughout the grant with important updates. So please make sure to check back regularly on this page. Right now, we have a few resources here. We've got some EGMS resources. EGMS, for those who are new, is the system through which you will submit your claims for reimbursement. That's the Department of Education system that you have to be set up in to receive the money. So if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to start working on setting yourselves up in EGMS. If you need assistance, please reach out to us and we will get you started on that process. But the forms to set up in EGMS are right there. And then we've got some other information here that we've posted. As of now, we have some resources here. We've got templates for what the sample narrative report looks like, the sample expenditure report, and then we've got some data reporting resources as well. We've got a quick start guide and manual that we suggest that you look at. This manual is going to go through every column of your data report that Molly's going to talk about in a bit, and it will give you some tips and tricks on how to fill out those columns. Also wanted to draw your attention to the reporting schedule, which should appear momentarily. There we go. All right. So this reporting schedule is going to tell you when those reports are due. We've got this broken down into quarters. You'll see the dates for each quarter. And then those reports every quarter are going to be due 1 month after the quarter ends. So for quarter one, September 30th, reports due October 31st. Again, grant agreements are delayed a bit, so we will work with you on what quarter one reporting looks like. Well, don't panic about that. But every quarter after that, reports will be due 1 month following the end date of that quarter. We've also got here which reports are due at which time. So budgets, expenditure reports, and EGMS claims every quarter, and then narrative reports every 2 quarters. We'll go into that second in a bit here. All right, so that's just to show you what is on the technical assistance website. Please make sure you check that out. Check out those resources. It's a lot of helpful information there. All right, again, reporting schedule. We just talked about that. So reporting consists of 3 main elements. One is the narrative report, one is the expenditure report, and one is the data report. As I just showed you on that screen, the items that will be due quarterly are the expenditure report, the data report, and summary data. Molly will talk a bit about that. The budget and narrative, which is where you're going to describe what you have spent your funds on, and the EGMS claim. And then every 6 months, you'll submit a narrative report. So that narrative report is only going to be due in even quarters, quarter 2, quarter 4, quarter 6, and quarter 8. Everything else is due each quarter, but that narrative report will just be a biannual report where you submit every 6 months. And so that report will encompass what you've done over the last 6 months. Again, the narrative report will be completed in SurveyMonkey Apply. Please check out that technical assistance website. There is a template there that will show you what that narrative report will look like. essentially that's going to be where you give us all the information about what you have done. That's where you tell your story. So talk about basically the services that you've provided. It's going to ask about any success stories that you want to share, any challenges you've experienced, any promising practices or approaches that you want us to be aware of, and really any other additional information that you'd like to share. Again, that'll be due in quarters 2, 4, 6, and 8. One thing that we have added in SurveyMonkey Apply, again, is a budget narrative. So that will be completed. It'll be a text box that you see in SurveyMonkey Apply, and you'll add information about what you have spent your money on in there. And again, those examples are linked here on the technical assistance website. The expenditure report will also be linked in SurveyMonkey Apply. So you will see a link when you go in for your narrative report, link to the expenditure report. That will be completed quarterly. Again, we have an example on that technical assistance website that you can look at. But please make sure that you're also submitting your EGMS claims at the same time as the rest of your reports. This is slightly different guidance than we might have given in the past, but we want to make sure that everybody is submitting those EGMS claims at the same time as those quarterly reports. Otherwise, those reports will not be considered complete. So make sure that you're set up in that EGMS system and that, that those are submitted at the same time. Again, that EGMS site is linked here and on the technical assistance website. All right. And we'll get into data reporting. We'll turn it over to Molly for that.
Okay, just to get some confirmation that you can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay, great. So thanks, Jared. At this point in the presentation, we're going to give a brief overview on the 23-25 Reengagement Opportunity Grant data reporting. And we'd like to first start with framing why there is a data report, why there's data reporting, and why it's important. And so obviously, of course, the data report and data reporting is evidence of project work. It shows that the programs are meeting grant requirements, and it also shows the effectiveness of the programs. In addition, we take the work that you're sharing with us, and we share that out to the Youth Development Council, to the Oregon Legislature, at re-engagement convening meetings. And what's really important here is that both for the re-engagement programs as well as for YDO, we're really using this data reporting to better understand re-engagement, the re-engaged youth populations, really so those re-engaged youth are seen. And we're also using the data reporting to gain a better understanding of programming for continuous improvement as we're building the Oregon statewide re-engagement system. When you dive into the report, you'll notice that there are aspects of the data report which are really some factors that programs need to know to effectively work with re-engaged youth, understanding the impact of learning. So specifically with learning, so for example, if the youth is on an IEP, what the youth's previous relationship with learning has been, learning environments, what their current priorities are they working full-time, and who is cheering for them in their lives as they embark on this educational reconnection and journey. And so the data report does require the individual programs to speak with individual youth participants, to talk to them at entry as well as at exit. And so at this point, we're going to take a very brief overview, there are two parts to re-engagement data reporting. There's one small part, and then there is the data report spreadsheet. And so just to kind of make sure that both of these you're aware of both of these. So in the narrative report in SurveyMonkey Apply that Jared mentioned, you will see that we're going to ask for the number of youth outreached to during the quarter, as well as the year-to-date count, and the number of youth who ultimately are eligible and enroll in re-engagement programming. And there will be that quarter count as well as year-to-date count. And so just for some definitions of terms, when we're talking about the number of youth outreach to, we're talking about when a individual youth has a known contact, so a contact known to the youth, for outreach into re-engagement programming. So for example, you're at a tabling event and you're passing a flyer to someone and talking about re-engagement, a personal text, a personal email, face-to-face encounter, phone call. That would be an outreach. Whereas that enrollment are the ones who ultimately are found eligible, and the youth decide to go ahead and enroll in programming for re-engagement services. And so those youth who decide that, yes, I want to work with this program, they're going to go on to what we call the data report. This is a individual level participant data spreadsheet where you're recording each individual student on the spreadsheet. The outreach names, they don't go on there, just the youth who ultimately that you find are eligible and go and are going to engage in programming. The format, again, this year is in that Smartsheet.gov format. And just a quick resource tip, always to refer you back. Right now on that technical assistance webpage, we have the quick guide that has all the different columns, if the particular data element is required or optional, the collection type, and as well as a second tab with all of the drop downs. So you can see everything. And then we have a comprehensive data manual where each data element and drop down are explained. Which is a perfect segue into. So for accuracy in reporting, it's really important that you access the resources that we're providing along the way. So it's important to read the data manual. There's 3 parts as well as attachments. So be sure to read everything. And then at the time of reporting, we also provide you with checklists, which have tips on checking for data quality. So those using those checklists and double checking that data quality before you submit the reports is really going to cut down on some of the back and forth between the grantee and the grant manager to finalize those data reports. So if you have any questions along the way, just be sure to reach out to your grant manager, and we certainly want to help you and support you in this process. Before we take a little deeper look, it's important, just as a reminder, that it's a requirement of the Reengagement Opportunity Grant that you establish eligibility for each youth that you enroll in re-engagement. And so the eligibility requirements are in part 2 of the data report, and each eligibility requirement is explained, clarified, and there's also scenarios there to help understand. And so just want to make sure that you read that and just let us know if you have any questions, how these criteria apply to your particular program. And so we're going to, so just kind of at the top, just in terms of what is re-engagement eligibility. Of course, we have that the youth must be living in Oregon. The youth are between ages 14 through 24 years of age. And the youth, when you're enrolling them in re-engagement, because ultimately re-engagement is for high school completion. So youth earning their high school diploma or a GED credential. So at enrollment, the youth should not have already earned a high school credential. And then from there, there's 4 different criteria. And for those of you who are returning grantees, please remember that the administrative rules did change in the last session. So there are a little bit of changes, and the criteria also have been reordered. So don't, for those of you who memorized A, B, C, D last time, I apologize, but we did have to switch around the order. And so just as a brief snapshot, criterion A is used for youth who are not enrolled in high school. Criteria B is for youth who are on a current 10-day drop list as provided by a school district, or ESD. Criterion C is for youth who are directly recommended into re-engagement programming by one of the agencies that is specified by administrative rule. And that list is limited. We did add community colleges and housing for this biennium. But it is limited to agencies which are allowed to directly recommend in. And the guidance specifies that the re-engagement program should have a relationship with the agency that is directly recommending into re-engagement, so that those recommending agencies, they know about you, they know about your programming, and how re-engagement is going to benefit the youth that they're working with. And finally, on criterion D, this is for youth who are in school. They need to be at least 16 years of age, but they're in high school. They're 3 or more credits behind, and they also have a demonstrated history of irregular attendance. So that is kind of an overview on eligibility. Please take a look at that part 2 of the data manual. And then on the eligibility, the youth only need to fit into one of the 4, but what happens is often youth fit into many of them. And so as attachment A in the data manual, we included a flow chart for eligibility code selection. Which one should you choose if multiple apply? So be sure to take a look at that. I think it's not only useful for which one do I select first, but it also has reminders of what else you need to be collecting if you're selecting certain eligibility requirements. And just in general, it helps to understand eligibility for re-engagement as well. So at this point, we're going to go into a brief demo, if I'm able to pull up the spreadsheet here. For the re-engagement data report, as I mentioned, it's in Smartsheet.gov. And so the data needs to be entered into the spreadsheet, but there's 2 different ways that you'll be able to enter the data. You can do it directly on the spreadsheet, or we'll show you that there are a couple of data entry forms that you'll be able to use. So let's see if I can pull that over and give you an idea of what we're talking about. Okay. So this is the Smartsheet.gov data report. And as I said, you can enter the data by going across the row. Each row will represent one student's information. And you'll note that there are various types of drop down where you're typing. There's drop down for text entry, dates. There's also some text entry where you can select more than one and you can put those in. Just to kind of give you an overview of the sheet itself, where there are grade columns here, those are optional columns. So those are not required for information. You can see that at the top of each row, there are eyes, which will provide information about that row. So that may be helpful. And so that's one way of entering the data, is across the row. However, we also have like a data entry form, if you prefer this row, I mean this style, where you can go ahead and you can go through the information and go ahead and do it, where there are where there is more than one answer allowed, you have to select one and then select the next one, and then you can select more that way. So if you're using the entry form, it's a little bit different process, but ultimately you can do the same information. And so you go down, you complete the form, and you'll submit it. And at this point, what happens is, let me refresh my screen here. The information that you just put on that individual student is going to be on your spreadsheet, and it will be at the bottom of the spreadsheet when you do that. Okay, so that's just a very brief overview of this spreadsheet. We can take a look at more if you have other questions during the question and answer period. My final note is that in terms of when do I get access, we're, as Jared mentioned, once we open up SurveyMonkey Apply, at that point, you will have access to your data report in Smartsheet.gov. And just to make sure everybody knows, before you get access to work with the Smartsheet.gov environment, you will be asked to review security and privacy protocols, and your grant manager will provide you that information at the right time.